but I can't eat. Not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. I uniform to show you who I am. Boring, but it's so easy. Same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest paycheck, a season book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door. Strange place, familiar faces, old furniture, brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change. Give me the news and an honest paycheck, a season book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door.
Early and effective intervention is a national multi-agency process to support children and young people aged 12 to 17 who have come into conflict with the law and been charged with an offence.
Through this programme, there was somebody there that would actually listen to me. Like,
Even though the things that I did were bad, that maybe I wasn't a lost cause.
So EEI is like your second chance. It's an opportunity to learn from behaviour and to make more positive choices.
Glasgow City Council EEI team will make contact with the child or young person and their families to discuss the recent referral incident, ensuring that the child and young person is at the heart of any decision.
There we go. My first little boo-boo there was leaving the mic on mute, so I do apologise. Everyone, welcome along to the EEI film launch. My name's Sean Hanlon and I'm an operations manager at Glasgow City Council, and I've got the pleasure of overseeing the EEI service within my area of responsibility. I'm going to do my best, and I have to say, if the start of it we leave myself on mute is in to go with, we're in for trouble, but I'm going to do my best to keep the launch today going, running as smoothly as possible. Can I start off by saying a big thank you to Mark and Caitlin from Street Cones, who actually made today's film. Originally, we were going to do this launch event on Microsoft Teams, but with just over 200 people now registered to come along to today's event, Street Cones stepped in and offered to host today's event and are going to be running all the kind of tech behind scenes. So it made it a lot easier for us than using Microsoft Teams. So a big thank you to Mark and Caitlin for doing that. Apologies if it meant that people had to re-register. However, the tech side of it will be a lot smoother. Let's just hope I can keep that side of it up as well. In terms of some housekeeping for today, today's launch is going to be live streamed on YouTube, and it's also being recorded. Later in the afternoon, there is also going to be a panel discussion. There's going to be a question and answer taking place. So the panel discussion is your opportunity to ask some questions of people involved in EEI and also of Street Cones, who helped put the film together. So if you would like to ask questions, if you're logged into YouTube, you can do that through the chat function and just stick them in the chat and they will get themselves to me. Or what you can do is email your questions in, and I see that we've quite clearly put on the screen the email address to send that to, which is mark@streetcones.org. So if you've got a question about the video, about the EEI process, about anything you hear today, then please submit those questions in and we'll put them to our panel a wee bit later on. Okay, I would now like to introduce our first speaker, who is Eileen Marshall. Eileen is a Divisional Director within Glasgow City Council. It's Neighbourhoods, Regeneration and Sustainability Service. That's a bit of a mouthful. And has responsibility for community safety and regulatory services within her remit. Welcome, Eileen, and it's over to you to say a few words.
Thanks very much, John. I've got the really easy job of thanking everyone for attending today to see our launch of our EEI video. Firstly, I'd like to start by recognising the work undertaken by the team here at Glasgow City Council. From case management to intervention, our staffing team really do care about the children and young people referred to our service and ensure that their voices are key in any decision taken. EEI at its core is about keeping children and young people out of statutory services and intervening as early as possible to find out what the needs of the child or young person is. This video highlights the approach taken by Glasgow City Council's early and effective intervention team and highlights the positive partnership approach that ensures that the best outcomes for Glasgow's children and young people. We are delighted just under, as Sean's already said, 200 people have signed up to attend today's lunch, many of whom we are already working with in our partnership process for EEI. I hope you enjoy the lunch today, and please use this as an opportunity to find out more about the EEI process and how, if you're not already involved, you can link in with this service. I really hope you enjoy it. It makes a tremendous difference to the young people of Glasgow. And back to yourself, Sean.
Thank you for those remarks, Eileen. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, who's Peter Orr. Peter is a service manager with the Health and Social Care Partnership. Peter oversees a number of teams within the Intensive Family Support Service and is also co-chair of the Youth Justice Strategy Group in Glasgow. Peter is also a keen supporter of the EEI service within Glasgow. And Peter, you're on mute, so don't make the same mistake as I made.
As soon as somebody says a keen supporter, I was a bit on edge there, Sean. A keen supporter of what team? I wondered where you were going, but yeah, certainly a keen supporter of EEI in Glasgow. And I suppose, as an overview, so I'm a social work service manager in the Health and Social Care Partnership in Glasgow. And as Sean was saying, that I co-chair the Youth Justice Strategy Group along with my colleague Tom Jackson from Community Justice Glasgow. And one of the things that I think that happens in Glasgow, and one of the things that I think that we do very well, is around integration and collaboration. And I think when I think about the Youth Justice Strategy Group, when I think about One Glasgow, I also think about our partners within those forums. So we've got, as John was saying, the NRS, Neighbourhoods and Regeneration and Sustainability. We've got Community Justice, Police Scotland, HSCP, the third sector, culture and leisure. So all of those groups are well integrated, and we take time, I think, to develop services in Glasgow to try and ensure that we are meeting the needs of those families that need help and need support at a particular point in their lives. And often when I think about young people or children who come into, who are in conflict with the law, they're often some of our very poorest families in Glasgow. And we find, certainly from a social work perspective, that our poorest families and our poorest communities are overrepresented within the social work system, if you like. And there's something about that says we need to do more at an earlier stage to try and mitigate some of the risks of those families, coming to the police attention, or indeed social work as well. So I think we've real efforts to actively collaborate and think about the systems that we want to put in place to stop any escalation. One of my favourite quotes is Desmond Tutu. Most of you will know him, but he says we need to stop pulling people out of the river, and we need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in the first place. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, like many local authorities and many families in Scotland that we face and will continue to face throughout the rest of this year and into next, is the ongoing impacts of harm through poverty. And we're quite anxious about that, certainly, as I'm sure many of you are, about how that might manifest in the way that families cope with some of the challenges that they face day to day. You layer on some adversities, you layer on trauma, and you layer on sometimes families don't have a lot of resilience. That we're worried about the impact of poverty as we move through the rest of this year. And whilst I co-chair the Youth Justice Strategy Group, I'm also involved heavily, as you could imagine, in our own family support strategy, where, you know, both from a youth justice lens and a family support lens, we're thinking really very much about the promise, and what families, young people, children who have experienced our services have told us in relation to the kind of help and support that they might have received, and basically asking us to pause, reflect, and think about doing things differently and in a way where we recognise some of the strengths and assets that exist within families, that we validate families' experiences, and that we offer them hope, an opportunity for change by changing the way that we practice or indeed engage with families, and we really want to be doing with and not to, as we move forward. Some of the other challenges that are around for us, and Jamie will talk about this, you know, in respect of the age of criminal responsibility, which you'll know is now raised to age 12. I'm in a national group looking at what's called operational implications for raising the age further to 14. And we're thinking about, you know, what will that mean to those young people who would have previously been charged with offences, but now we consider them to be behaving in such a way that's causing them harm or indeed others harm. And we're thinking about community confidence and how we think, you know, how we begin to develop services for children in such a way that everybody's confident that the outcomes are going to improve. And one of the things, I was at a meeting with Jamie a couple of weeks ago on the 18th of August when he was giving us a bit of feedback about EEI. And one of the things that really stuck with me in relation to the family support strategy and the promise, and working with whole families about not disconnecting children or young people from the people that take care of them day to day, that Jamie was talking about 82% of the young people referred to EEI were supported and were engaged with their families throughout the process. And I think when Jamie talks, he'll talk about the increased positive outcomes potentially as a consequence of that family and engagement and the difference that makes, again, probably for many of our poorest children. I've seen the video. It's a great watch. I hope you're still here after my ramblings, but I'm really looking forward to hearing more from Jamie, and I'm looking forward to, you know, answering any questions from MD as we kind of move through the afternoon. So thank you very much. Thanks very much, Sean.
Excellent, Peter. Thanks for that. And I have to say a big thank you to Peter, because it was touch and go whether he'd be able to make it online due to blocks in the council's network, etc. So many thanks, Peter, for taking that extra time just to make sure that you could join us today. And I'm sure everyone will agree that the kind of words that you shared there really helped set the scene for today's launch. Peter's going to be joining the panel later today, so if anybody would like to submit their questions for Peter, for anyone there, it's appeared there we go, then please email in mark@streetcones.org, or if you are on the YouTube chat, then you can also submit your questions through the chat function as well, which we'll all get to ourselves. So again, thank you Peter for that. Before we move on to the film premiere, I think it's important to put EEI into some context within Glasgow. Today, an EEI is a partnership approach, but today we've got lots of partners joining us, and also a large interest from other local authorities and agencies from across Scotland, and you're very much welcome here today to find out a bit more about how we operate EEI in Glasgow, because I think it's important to say that it is different from a lot of local authorities where, our area of the council isn't health and social care partnership. We're not social work. So it removes EEI from that sort of kind of statutory function, if you like, that delivers it. So I'd like to now invite Jamie Callaghan, who is the service manager for EEI, who's going to join me to take you through a presentation around EEI in Glasgow. Again, Jamie will be in the panel later on, and has got a vast knowledge of EEI, and was one of the officers that first set up EEI in Glasgow over about 12 years ago, Jamie. So we'll take you through a presentation, then we'll go on to the film, and after that it will be our question and answer following that. So in terms of the introductions, so myself and Jamie are going to take you through this. Next, I feel like that. Next slide, please. There we go. So early and effective intervention, as most people know, is a national framework for working with children and young people 8 to 17 who've been involved in offending behaviour. And we've already spoken about the changes in the age of criminal responsibility, and obviously under 12s are now considered differently from over 12s in that. So we've been adapting within Glasgow, and we'll no doubt cover that a wee bit more through this presentation and also within the question answer. EEI's core is to divert children and young people away from statutory measures, responding to the charge in a timely manner. This means that children and young people who have committed offence will be diverted from referral to the children's reporter and referred to the EEI process where that's appropriate. Now, what I would say is I think we talked around 70 young people in any 1 month would come from Police Scotland to our team, where we would then kind of, if you like, triage that referral, and Jamie will talk a wee bit more about it. I also mentioned that it's very different within Glasgow, where EEI does sit separately from the Health and Social Care Partnership from social work, and it sits within the Neighbourhoods Regeneration and Sustainability service, which looks after EEI. Jamie, in terms of the objectives of EEI, so the main objectives of EEI are to provide a timely and proportionate response to offending concerning and harmful behaviour by children, provide clear information to children and families on the purpose of EEI. And I think number 2 is important, because for us that's why it was really key to get this film put together, especially if a child or young person has been referred to EEI. We wanted to make sure that they understand crystal clear what the service is, that it's voluntary, and that we are there to support them. So hopefully this film goes a way to kind of bridge that gap, especially if a letter goes through the door and hits a doormat on a Saturday morning and it's a Monday before they can speak to any of our team. Then our letters are going to be updated to have a copy of this video on our webpage, and it means that people can access this. When responses and interventions are necessary, they must be child-centred, based on a holistic assessment of needs and risk, and in the best interest of the child, in line with GIRFECT and the UNCRC. So GIRFECT's the core of everything that we do within EEI, and in terms of the United Convention's rights of a child, we are very key as a team that we are a rights respecting service in terms of making sure that children and young people are at the heart of that. So we're talking there about the consideration of the child's well-being, and their views must be obtained and considered, and along with the views of the family and the community. And it's really interesting because, as Peter kind of alluded to, during COVID, we have seen a massive surge in our family engagement when engaging with children, young people around EEI, which has been fantastic. And we thought that could have been due to furlough and the restrictions, but that's actually continued now that we're into a wee bit more of normality, which is great. So about the sharing of information is really key for us as well, especially the introduction of GDPR. So the sharing of information is really key. And where appropriate, the victims of crime should be informed about the outcomes. And Jamie will go on and talk about that a wee bit later in terms of some of the victims work views, especially around a kind of RG approach within the EEI team. So Jamie, over to yourself to take us through the next couple of slides.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming along today. Just a wee bit about the EEI process. Obviously I've worked with EEI since it started in 2010 in Glasgow, and it's came a long way. So young people, a young person who's arrested and cautioned and charged, or if a young person now under 12 has been referred by Police Scotland for harmful and risky behaviour, they will then submit a concern report to our coordinators. We've got 3 EEI coordinators, one for each sector in the city, one in the south, one in the northeast, and one in the northwest. So they will then submit that for them, and they'll liaise with partners to build up a picture about what the incident is and what that young person, the incident was and how that young person is. And you'll see in the video me talking about that as well. It's really important that we engage with the family, engage with all the young people, engage with all the networks that that young person's got in terms of school and any support that they're receiving at that time to build up that picture of where that young person is in their life at that particular time. We can also then look at a multi-agency approach, and we do a multi-agency approach anyway. We can look into multi-agency meetings in relation to that young person and looking to get a better outcome in terms of the young person's overall well-being. In relation to the decisions that the coordinator can make, we really need to try and get that decision made in the quickest possible way, ensuring that it's appropriate for the child and the outcome of the child. But we'll kind of look to get it done within kind of a 15-day period. So we're a very small team who are working hard to build up that picture and information and get the views of the child and the young person and their families as well. So we can then have a single agency referral to a particular agency, which could be back to ourselves in terms of our intervention team, which will come on to speak about in a wee while. We could then refer to social work, or when the social worker is already involved, then we can continue that care plan and let the social worker know very, very quickly that that incident is taking place. We can refer the young person on to school and some of the stuff that's going on within the school campus, whether that be more youth work support or pastoral care support, and we can then look at the campus officers within the school environment as well. They could do some work with the young people in terms of the risks of crime and looking at keeping them safe in that environment as well. We also tap into youth health, mental health services, and looking at any kind of, if there's any issues, we can alcohol or drugs, then we'll look at doing that. We can also do nothing. When we're saying do nothing, there's a lot of work that goes into doing nothing, taking no further action, because we speak a lot to families and parents, and there's a lot of stuff going on. You'll hear me saying that in the video. So we take no further action. We can also refer to the children's reporter, when we think the concerns are need to be upscaled to a kind of statutory level. But we very rarely do that now, just because of the appropriateness of the referrals to us. And there's really no need for that. Thanks for the next slide. Just in terms of numbers, I'll not really go into too much detail, but you can see there, through post-pandemic, we're around 900 young people a year. Like I said, it's a team of 3 who deal with every single referral, and it's myself that manages and case manages every single referral that comes through. During the pandemic, the referrals got a wee bit lower, but you can see a steady stream of it coming back to where it was. We're only in Q2, we're 273. That's going to, by the time that next year, we'll kind of back to pre-COVID kind of levels, and you can see the split between the sectors in the city that are pretty even. The south just going a wee bit higher in terms of its its demographics. And as I say, it says about that our parental responses have really got better during the COVID times, but as Sean said, that has kind of continued, which has led to us having fantastic conversations with parents, and some hard conversations with parents at times when, we had to agree something needs to be put in place. But more so, we're seeing that there's parents are, really getting involved in terms of they're trying to keep the young people safe, trying to keep the, in terms of what they're doing about the young person if they're getting into bother with the police, and they're putting a lot of their own sanctions in place, and they're putting a lot of well-being protective factors in place. So there's nothing that we need to do, and there's no further actions have increased because the fact that the parents are putting a lot in place for their own children. On to the next one, thanks. So this is just a wee bit about where the referrals go to. I mean, as I said earlier on, a lot of them go to our intervention team, who will work with the young person, which I'll come on to speak about in a wee minute. A lot of them go through social work because they've already got an ongoing social work, but we'll get that referral to them very, very quickly, and they can integrate that into the young person's care plan. We pass a lot of the stuff to young people to education. As you can see, the no further actions that we spoke about a wee minute ago has increased just because of the conversations we're having with parents. The referrals to the children's support have decreased just because, again, the interaction we're having with services and the appropriate referral to ours. We no longer send warning letters to young people just because it leaves a footprint on the criminal history system for 2 years. So we kind of don't do that anymore, and we continue to pass referrals to the campus officers and within the school environment when they can help that. So just a wee bit about the intervention. I've got 2 intervention workers as well, and everything that we do anyway as a team, because we're previously a restorative justice team, everything we do is underpinned by restorative justice principles. When our referrals come to our intervention team, they tend to be young people who are, who have become involved in offending in a wee bit more frequent way than some of the 1 or 2 referrals that will come through. Our workers then go and kind of look at doing sessions with young people based on the things that you can see in front of you. So offence analysis, victim awareness, looking at the harm that it can cause and how that affects other people, looking at the consequences of your actions, looking at your social networks and how you manage that, in terms of trying to keep yourself safe and out of trouble, looking at some specific stuff like knife crime and the effects and harm that can cause the wider community, even the young person, and looking at giving the young people techniques to problem solve and to go back into the community and try and practice that. So that's with an intervention team. Sorry, we also then deliver community restorative programs, which isn't anything to do with EEI, but I sort of just give it a wee mention. We look to work with groups of young people within doing that, and looking at a restorative approach to group work, working closely with our colleagues in Police Scotland, who are part of the group work programme, looking at the conflict between young people and the police as well as bringing in people harmed by the young people's behaviour in the community, and having that discussion too, about looking at how that harm is affecting other people. And it's quite powerful sometimes to get that young people collectively to take responsibility and to look at the harm that they've been causing in the community and get that empathy collectively, and it's really powerful in terms of moving forward and learning for the behaviour that they've been portraying together. So it's an easier way for the next time something happens for them to kind of look at each other and say, well, we know that's not right, and we know how that affects other people. So it's a really exciting programme we do as well. And again, so how can we work more better in a partnership? I think that our video in this launch today is about saying, we've not got it all right. We never do it all right. We're always looking for more partners to get involved, because the bigger our network, then the better our outcomes for young people. So if you're watching this and you don't have any links with ourselves, then please feel free to contact us after it, and we can sit down and look at how then we work better partnership levels and look at the better outcomes for the young people that come through our service. And there's your contact details there. And I can send emails out, or we can put it on the chat, or in terms of how to get in touch with ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Jamie. Again, I think it's really important for those out with Glasgow, but even those that are based in Glasgow, I'm just making sure I wasn't on mute there, that are based in Glasgow, just to go over how EEI works and also the opportunities, and just to kind of echo that plea from Jamie, if there is the opportunity to find out more, we're also more than happy to come along to team meetings within different organisations and give an input into the EI process and really look at strengthening those partnerships. So it's now premiere time. Well, we're just about there, but before we show the film, it's important to say a few thank yous. I'd like to do this now, just in case anybody has to kind of run away after it. So I think, as we said, firstly, a big thank you to Tom Jackson and the team at Community Justice Glasgow for providing the funding to allow this film to be made. I've been talking for a number of months about how we could do this in a meaningful way and put a film together that allows children, young people and their families to understand and find out more about the EI process. And a big thank you, as I says, to Tom and the team for making that happen and providing the funding. To Mark and Caitlin for Street Cones, they took a very, very rough concept that myself and Jamie put together and worked collaboratively and creatively with a team, with some young people to create today's film. And I'm sure you'll all agree it's been great. We have to say a massive thank you to North United Communities Acting Up Drama Group. The young people you see in the film today are all young actors who took part in the group. Now, Diane and the team have took some anonymised case studies that we produced around referrals that we received in EI and really brought to life the importance and the impact our service can have on children and young people. So a big thank you to Diane and all the young volunteers who we gave a wee sneak peek of the film a couple of weeks ago with some pizza, and Jamie met with the group just to give them a kind of token of our appreciation. So again, the acting in it, the group have been absolutely outstanding, which is great. To our partners in Police Scotland, the Health and Social Care Partnership within schools, community and voluntary organisations, there are countless partners in Glasgow that EI work with each day to deliver our service. However, as I've said, and we'll continue to say it throughout this, we're always looking to extend our partnership and would love to hear from yourself and the opportunity to chat. And before we press the button and show the film, I would just like to say a big thank you to Jamie and his team, to Sharon, to Pauline, to Tom, to Lorraine, to James and to Heather. Every day in, day out, deliver the EI service on behalf of Glasgow. It's what I like to say, a small but mighty team in terms of the outcomes that they deliver for children and young people. So, a massive thank you to that team as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to ask that we now show the film. So, ready when you are.
Early and effective intervention is a national multi-agency process to support children and young people aged 12 to 17 who have come into conflict with the law and been charged with an offence, or been referred by Police Scotland for displaying risky and concerning behaviour for under 12-year-olds. Glasgow City Council EEI team will make contact with the child or young person and their families to discuss the recent referral incident and the wider wellbeing of the child, and, with the help of other agencies, decide on the best way to move forward to provide proportionate support to achieve better outcomes for children. This video takes you through some of the people involved in this journey, ensuring that the child and young person is at the heart of any decision.
My name's Lorraine Gardner. I'm an intervention worker for the Early and Effective Intervention team. So my role's definitely about support. It's about having conversations with the individual to look at how and why they've got to the position that they're in, and looking at how they can change the path that they're on to make better choices. And we do that through engaging with them, their families, the school, linking them with appropriate resources. So if they've got issues with drug abuse, if they've got anger issues, if they've got anxiety issues, whatever the issues may be for them as an individual, we will look to support them by linking them with further agencies that can give them long-term support to help them on their journey.
It's just been incredible, really. I feel like it's really helped me get better, because before I was acting out, I was hitting people because they were insulting my brother. They've just made me a better person, because I've had someone to talk to, and it felt amazing just to have someone understand me. And even though the things that I did were bad, that maybe I wasn't a lost cause.
Hi, I'm Pauline. I'm the EEI, Early and Effective Intervention Coordinator for the South of Glasgow. My role as coordinator is purely to support young people. It's all about listening to them and letting them be part of the outcome, listening to the parents. We love young people to be part of that decision that I'm going to make at the end of the process. When I'm looking at the offence or the concern report in front of me, it's not just about dealing with that one incident that happened, it's about looking into everything round about it, what led up to it, why did it happen, and what we can do to stop it happening again.
Growing up, I was a really quiet wee boy. Like, I kept myself to myself, and then like the bullying started, and every day I just felt like I had nobody. Through this programme, there was somebody there that would actually listen to me. Like, I genuinely had somebody there I could talk to. I'm not gonna like, it was 50-50. Like, how they're gonna deal with me? Are they actually gonna listen to me? Like, are they gonna listen to my side of the story about why I did what I did? How are they gonna deal with me? Is this gonna be better for me, or is it just gonna make it worse?
I'm PC Sarah Deary, and I'm the campus officer at St Paul's. The campus officers will link in with the EEI coordinators. We'll discuss the young person or the pupil, whoever's been involved in the crime. We take into consideration their own circumstances, the circumstances surrounding the crime, and their family and their background and anything else that might have happened. And we put all that together, and where the police links in with the EEI, we'll make a decision and we'll work together in speaking with the young person and the families and what that resolution is.
I'm Jamie Callaghan. I'm the service manager for Early and Effective Intervention. It gives young people the chance to reflect on whatever the incident was in itself, but also it's important because it gives us to look at their well-being and how they are and how their family is and how their lifestyle is in school, and if there's anything we can do to support that and make it better, then we will. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes young people and the families are looking after each other and it's just a one-off incident and we don't do anything about it. We just let the family and we let nature take its course, and hopefully a young person has learnt from that, because it can be quite traumatic, you know, having the police at your door or having the police take a young person home and the whole family is then affected by that, and it can be quite traumatic in itself. So, you know, there's times where, you know, there's a lot of good parenting happening in Glasgow as well. So, you know, we can see that the parents and the family are dealing with that situation, and there's no need for anybody else to step in, you know.
It's been so beneficial to me. Before, I was going out every weekend drinking and doing drugs just because I didn't know how to cope with somebody in my family passing away. And I felt like I was isolated, I felt like I was alone, but now I know I've got people to talk to, such as grief counsellors. I feel like now I can be more open and know there's different ways to tackle grief. At first I was anxious because I thought nobody would understand me, and I felt like my own isolated person. I just wasn't what society wanted me to be, but I was also relieved that I got caught because I knew it would help me. Which helped me know I'm not alone, and you can always ask for help, and yeah, you're never alone.
We don't want to the minute you do something wrong, go down the route of criminalising the person, maybe not learning from it and just continuing on in that behaviour. If we can take it as a learning experience and improve on the circumstances that's led them to commit crime and give them the opportunities to make better choices going forward.
I felt like I was getting in trouble by an authority figure, and that I was being blamed, and this was it for my future, and this was what I was going to be labelled as forever. But the more I read into it, I realised that these people want to help me and that they're not trying to get me into trouble. It's been really helpful. I don't need to get in with the wrong crowd at school. I mean, I was new to a whole new area. I didn't have any friends, I didn't know anybody, and I fell in with the wrong people. And I just started doing all these stupid things like drinking, smashing up windows. People will accept me for who I am, and I don't need to pretend to do all these things and be peer pressured by others into doing things that I don't want to do.
I would strongly recommend any young person to take part in the early and effective intervention, because although it's voluntary and nobody's going to force you to do it, it is a really, really good opportunity to get the supports that you may need to help you make better choices in your life and stop getting into trouble with the police. And sometimes it's just quite good to chat to somebody about why you've got to where you are and to reach out and access some help.
I felt nervous and I felt like I was going to get judged for what I had done. It's helped me to not go around spray painting people's houses. It's helped me control my anger. Now I'm using the spray painting in a more positive way and doing community murals. If you let anger take over your life, it ends up with consequences.
When EEI and the intervention worker perhaps gets involved, they can help that young person with those issues by referring them for further support. And we have lots of young people that have taken that support and have no longer had any more incidents with the police.
So EEI is like your second chance. It's an opportunity to learn from behaviour and to make more positive choices to stop going down that path of committing more and more offending. So it's a chance where we're trying to stop seeing young people as offenders and criminals and trying to help them make better choices and link in with resources to help them become better versions of themselves.
Thank you very much. Normally, if this was a sort of kind of live event, we'd all give a kind of round of applause. So I'll kind of just do a virtual one for all of our all of the children and young people that took part in that and they kind of acted involved based on some of those real case studies, to all of our partners for kind of volunteering to be involved in the film. And as I says, especially to Caitlin from Street Cones as well, who really went above and beyond and had to do a few reshoots to make the video the film as good as it could be. So big thank you to everyone involved. I've watched it lots and lots over the last month or so, and every time I'm still immersed in it. So also just to let you know that the longer version of the film, which you just viewed there, that will be available on our website, which is there we go, glasgow.gov.uk/EEI by the end of today. We also have a shorter version that we'll be able to use on social media, etc., just to kind of promote EEI, and I think that's what you came into, the kind of minute and a half or so. We are going to use that, as I says, as a way of demonstrating to children and young people that EEI is first of all voluntary, but it's a supportive programme for children and young people. And I think we'll get a question during the panel that will kind of cover that. but we're also going to use it to kind of for partner engagement as well, and for promoting the service. So that will be used. Glasgow.gov.uk/EEI should be up by the end of the day. Okay, we are now going to move on to our question and answer panel, and I'd like to welcome our panel members. So you've heard from most of them already today. So we've got Jamie Callaghan, who is a service manager for EI and has been there since the start 12 years ago for it. We've got PC Sarah Deary, who is a campus police officer based at St Paul's High School, and you've seen Sarah in the movie. I believe she's going to kind of fake some technical difficulties to try and get out of this, but glad to have you along, Sarah. Peter Orr, who is a service manager within HSCP, responsible for intensive family support, and there's also co-chair of the Glasgow Youth Justice Strategy Group. And we've also got Mark McNichol, who is the project director of Street Cones, who produced the film today as well. Okay, so we've got a number of questions, and we'll just try and keep them coming on. I just realised, Mark, you're the question master, and you're on the panel, so we'll just see how this goes. So the first one is from Norman, and his question is it fair to say that some, or maybe even most, young people and their families will think of EI as a big stick? What can be done to change their perceptions of the programme? So probably, Jamie, maybe go to yourself first on that one.
You know, so that's the point of the video, I think, is to let young people and their families know that it is a supportive process. You know, there is no big stick when young people are getting arrested or involved with the police. It's a concern. It's a well-being concern. You know, it's took a long time for even the kind of police. The police have always put in well-being concerns, but in terms of young people and justice, it's a well-being concern. So we would like to think that we're looking at the well-being of the child and their families rather than any kind of punitive. There's no punitive measures as far as we're concerned in terms of EEI, but even for young people under 16, we're looking to support them.
Okay. Thanks for that. Sarah, do you want to come in there at all, just in terms of the approach that EI takes, or even the approach the police takes when dealing with children and young people?
I think now quite a lot of the high schools in Glasgow is all of a campus officer, so that in itself has changed the opinion how the police and young people work together. Again, like in the local community, the police at times can be more visible, more engaging, and it's taken away maybe the stigma was there before between the police and young people. It is a conversation. It's something that's talked about in school, and like that, having the staff from EI in the school building and these discussions and conversations happening within school, if need be, it takes the stigma that's maybe been there before away from it to make it more approachable and something that everybody's aware of now.
Okay, no, thank you for that, Sarah. Our next question, and I don't know if we know the answer to this one, but I think it's something we can find out, is has all Scottish local authorities stopped sending out warning letters to young people? And that's from Angela in East Renfrewshire, a campus cop in East Renfrewshire. Jamie, I don't know if you know the answer to that, if it's something we can get back to them on.
No, I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that. The reason we stopped seeing it because we did a session looking at the criminal history system and looking at how the consequences of charges for young people and stuff like that with the Scottish Government a while ago. And we did find out that young people get warning letters that, leaves a footprint for 2 years. And if a young person at 14, 15, they was to get sent a warning letter, we wouldn't want to have an impact on their future in terms of going for employment or anything like that. So we've kind of fell away for that a wee bit. So I don't know about other local authorities, but I'm happy to chat it through with anybody if they want to contact me off the table.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Jamie. There's a question here, and it's do young people have to get into trouble with the police before they're referred to EEI, or can schools make referrals? And that is a question from Tracy. So Jamie, maybe over to yourself again, sorry.
I mean, unfortunately, then, we're looking to, we work through concern reports that are referred directly for Police Scotland. So I suppose when you say in trouble with police now, 8 to 12-year-olds, are they getting into trouble with the police, but they've been reported for that, so it's not about getting into trouble because nobody's getting into trouble, if you know what I mean. So all the referrals that we get do come from Police Scotland. There is no other mechanism that we could receive that referral, unfortunately.
Okay. Maybe just to say something there, Tracy, obviously EI, we've also got our programmes that we deliver as well, our community restorative programmes, and we've done a lot of work in schools where there's young people who are involved in offending behaviour in groups, and we can work, if it's something we could look at doing a programme through Jamie's team, then we'd be more than happy to have a conversation here to look at what approach and what support we might be able to kind of make there. Okay, the next question I have is maybe one for Sarah. Are Police Scotland involved in all EI referrals, or is it only some of them? And that's from Rachel.
The referral process, as Jamie said, starts with Police Scotland putting a referral in that comes to EEI. So it starts with the police. How much involvement the police have throughout the process depends on each individual circumstances. Again, I've possibly got much more involvement as does other campus officers because we're in the schools. If it's something that's maybe from someone that's more in the community, again, it depends on each individual set of circumstances. We can have the involvement if it's required or wanted, but likewise, we can leave it down to the staff at EEI if that's the most suitable path as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Jamie, you want to comment that? Is that okay with you?
No, that's fine. That's
perfect.
The nail on the head.
The other question is, and my screen just went totally blank there, was around social work, and it's whether all young people referred to EI are open to social work. Peter, I don't know if you want to come in and say something there, or Jamie?
I'll come in.
Jamie will come in first. Perfect.
The majority aren't. The majority don't. There's some young people will maybe have social work involvement in relation to well-being or previous welfare concerns, or their family members will be known to social work. But we do the checks before we do anything really, so that we've got a good dialogue with the allocated worker, or we look to speak to social work who already manage the case for that young person, and to look to integrate what that incident was into the young person's care plan in a really quick way.
Excellent. Peter, you want to comment anything on that?
I think Jamie's pretty much covered it there, Sean. Again, all of the efforts are put into prevention and de-escalation and try to get things right for young people and their families. So, I think the system as is works pretty well in relation to what Jamie's described there.
Peter, maybe while we've got you here, there's another question, and it's what work has been undertaken to support families of children and young people involved in EI? I don't know if that's something you want to come in on, Peter.
Well, again, directly speaking to, or in the context of EEI, if social work are involved, we would want to ensure that we're helping families in such a way that mitigates, as I said earlier, any future risk of harm, both to self, individuals, families, communities. We have got what's called an intensive family support service in Glasgow, where we're working collaboratively with 4 third sector organisations, including Action for Children right there, and Aberlour, where we support families where there's risk of breakdown, where things aren't going particularly well. We try and get alongside families, work on families' own goals. And my point from earlier was about really helping families sometimes just see a bit of hope in their future, and being supported. And I think, I was listening to an audio clip from my mum that we were supporting, and she was saying, it was from her shoes, not to feel scrutinised as a mum, or invalidated as a mum, that actually the approach that we're trying to develop in Glasgow is very much about validation. It's very much about voice and the family's voice, listening to what families are telling us, and then hope. And I think one of the questions in the chat, I think from Tom, talks about an exit from EEI. What does that look like? And very much again, when we're trying to support families, we're thinking about helping families get to a position that's sustainable. So the services and our families don't feel like it's a revolving door. The help and support that they've had helps them on a journey that allows them to be independent. Of course, accept help, because lots of families need help at different times, but not necessarily from social work if it's not needed, for example.
Okay, thanks for that, Peter. Jamie, anything you want to add in there at all?
No.
Okay, excellent. I've got a question here which probably is for Mark, and it's from Anthony. I've seen a few street cones, short films, interesting format. What is the process behind transferring pre-identified themes into this sort of format?
So, yeah, we've done quite a few of these short films, and I suppose for those of you who don't know who street cones are, our focus is about using the arts and creativity to try and affect positive change for the participants, the clients, the groups, the communities that we work with. Our delivery team are all from the Scottish creative sector, so freelance actors, writers, directors, filmmakers, various other specialisms. And we all share this enthusiasm around about using that work in this particular context. So when it comes to the short films that we produce on behalf of clients, the format, as with most of our work, is always about exploring ways, not just that the arts can be used to affect positive change, but exploring ways that we can integrate lived experience. So pretty much every short film that we've done, and they're all on our YouTube channel, there's playlists, and you can see under playlist it's short films. Each of them tends to be a similar format, which is a mixture of talking heads, so clients or participants being interviewed about the pre-identified theme, but there's usually always a lived experience component working its way through those talking heads. So that might be a piece of fiction, short film, or it might be something like we did here, which is using anonymised actors to actually deliver some case studies. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Mark. I've got a question here. Could campus police be extended to linking primary schools to chat to primary 6 and 7 pupils who are committing minor offences? So maybe, Sarah, one for yourself about the linking with campus cops, campus police officers into primary schools, especially for primary 6 and 7s.
Depends on every high school how much involvement they do or don't have with the primary schools. Again, that's something that's discussed in whatever area that you're in Glasgow. I have, especially in the lead up for the transitions of primary 7s into high school, I do go out and speak to the primary 7 feeder schools for here. And again, previously I have had reason to engage with the primary schools due to whether it's been a bad decision or a poor decision or criminality in young people. So it just depends on each individual circumstances, whether it's best placed with a campus officer or a police officer from the local police station in the community or not.
Okay, thanks for that, Sarah. There is a question here about the role of the voluntary sector within EEI. Jamie, you've already kind of spoke about the partnership approach, and I take it that's not just with statutory organisations, that there is a vast voluntary sector network there that the EEI links in with.
Absolutely. We wouldn't want to try and reinvent the wheel in terms of relationships with young people. If there's existing provision that we know that young person is engaging with, we'll try and link with them if possible, to look at sustaining any kind of intervention that we would do, or even to carry on the relationship they already have and support the young person through that. So get in touch with me if you think that we don't already have any links with yourselves, and we can look at how that works.
Excellent. Down to the last couple of questions that we've got here, and there's a couple around COVID-19, and Danny's asked about the impact of COVID-19 on referrals, and then someone else has asked about any learning from COVID, and maybe I can start by saying that the referrals really declined during COVID, as you would imagine, because of the restrictions. So because children and young people weren't out or shouldn't have been out as much as is now, then the referrals really took a kind of nosedive during COVID. But what that allowed our team to do is really have those really positive conversations and support with families and spend more time, because what we are finding is that our coordinators were engaging with the child or young person, but also the families, and signposting to a lot of different support mechanisms that took place. In terms of the learning from COVID, it really opened up an opportunity to engage with parents a lot more, which we've already covered in terms of our parental involvement increasing. But also what we found was really interesting was engaging with children and young people over technology. So having to use things like WhatsApp and Zoom and Teams was really interesting, and that digital divide as well, about how we could actually get kit out to some of these families so that they can engage with not just the coordinators but also the intervention workers, which was really interesting. So we found that definitely something that was a learning from COVID. Jamie, is there anything else that kind of want to add in there?
Really, just to focus on the wider family as well, and just stuff that we probably wouldn't have picked up on before during COVID. Then we were looking at, as Sean says, getting, sometimes it was food banks or that type of thing, or support networks, and again, just to opened up new horizons in terms of technology for us as well, and we can deliver sessions to young people online, and now we still offer that. So I suppose it's kind of, that's a positive that's come out of it in terms of being able to engage with the young people in their terms, I suppose.
Fab. There's also a question here about what supports are there for young people as they finish their time in EEI, and I suppose we've spoken a bit about that EEI is about that engagement and then a decision around what's in the best interest of that child and young person, with them involved and their families involved in that decision. But I think that's where the voluntary sector networks really come into their own, about if that young person, for example, attends a youth group or a youth club or are involved in activities in the school, then that's about engaging at that level and keeping away from any kind of escalated behaviour. So for us, EEI is about that kind of sharp intervention where we can then kind of look at what other networks or support mechanisms. Our signposting is really part of the job of a coordinator as well. So our 3 coordinators are busy with those referrals, but also looking at the local community and how they can tie into different networks, youth networks, community networks, so that they can signpost children, young people, and even more so nowadays, their families in different networks. Jamie, anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I think it's important to say that a young person might come through EEI more than one time, and more than 2 times, more than 3 times, until we find the right supports, or we get the young person to the right place where that we've got the best outcome we can. So it doesn't always happen the first time, it doesn't always happen the second time. The whole point is to try and keep that young person out of formal systems until we get up to a point where we can. So sometimes the exit is the young person learning for the incident and not coming back. And as I spoke about in the video, all the trauma that comes with getting arrested and stuff like that. Yeah, but sometimes we'll get young people who are still taking their risks and still come through our service, but we'll still look to get a different outcome or re-engage with the intervention worker who has already built that relationship. So, looking at different topics and just getting to know that young person better, so that, he feels confident about talking about what's going on for them, and then looking at supporting that whatever way we can.
Excellent. very, very final 2 questions, unless anything else comes in, and that's really around the age of criminal responsibility and how that will impact EEI. But also, maybe Peter, I know you were saying you're involved in a group. I don't know if you want to maybe talk about the age of criminal responsibility more generally in Glasgow and anything that's been done in Glasgow around that subject.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's interesting, you know, in terms of how we hold little children in mind, and 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, who are still relatively new in this world, potentially criminalising them by arresting them for offences, and obviously that's now shifted up to age 12, and I think. As we, you know, the Scottish Government planned to increase that to aged 14, with further plans to increase that through the years. And I think it might be, I could say, a wee 8 or 9-year-old, you know, shouldn't be arrested. But I'm wondering, you know, when we start maybe thinking about 14 or 15 or 16-year-olds, who will be seen in exactly the same way as an 8 or a 9-year-old, how that will land both with us as professionals, but and also with the wider community. So I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. I think more broadly about understanding outcomes for kids and about what is it that we want to achieve, and how is it that we go about engaging, supporting young people and their families, that provides positive alternatives, that means that they won't, in old language, offend. And I think there's lots of layers to that in itself, in terms of, as I was saying, community confidence, for example, about, you know, traditional views, crime and punishment, for example. So I think that's a process that we will have to work our way through. I mean, there's also there's room where there's significance in terms of, you know, a child's welfare or risk of significant harm to self and or others, through becoming, you know, maybe in conflict with the law. There are specific means to engage with that family through, or that young person, through joint interviews with the police, ourselves, the children's hearing system, for example. So there's lots of work going on still, and it's, you know, but we're really thinking hard about what gives the best outcome here. And sometimes that's hard work, because often the perception of punishment is that it's swift, but the perception of change, you know, in terms of circumstances, that sometimes takes a bit longer to achieve. So a number of things, I think, you know, don't have a time scale on raising the age to 14, but certainly the conversations are ongoing, and as I say, government are keen to not lose momentum and behind that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Peter. Jamie, do you want to say anything just in terms of the age of criminal responsibility for in terms of EEI?
Sorry, could you remind me what the question was again?
Yeah, it was really just how will the change in age of criminal responsibility impact EEI?
All right. I mean, as Peter says, you know, it's young people, even 11 and 12, you know, we've always kind of treated them differently. We've always looked to always involve the main networks in their life and that, and you know, to be honest, we've never really used our intervention workers really for that age group. We've really looked to let the lead professional, if you like the school, to kind of take the lead on whatever the outcome would be in that term. So, you know, it doesn't really massively change our approach, but, you know, in terms of the policing approach and that maybe some of the language that we use in relation to, you know, speaking to young people, definitely changing there. But as a wider community, you know, a young person at 11 and 10 and 11 are picking up charges with police, then it's a concern. It's a wellbeing concern. What's going on for that young person that they find themselves in that situation and what's going on with their families, that we can help maybe support and change that. That's not going to change, you know, but in terms of some of the language and some of the approach that we take as a collective multi-agency way, then, you know, that might change, but I hope that answers your question.
Yep. There's probably something there as well. Obviously, with the age of criminal responsibility, under 12s can still be referred to EEI now under the grounds of concerning and harmful behaviour. And I think it will be interesting to see as we have started to receive those reports from Police Scotland within EEI for under 12s on the grounds of concerning harmful behaviour. But I think what will be interesting to see, you know, a bit like the question that was asked earlier on, is will Police Scotland be able to refer young people over the age of 12 under those grounds who haven't, you know, committed a crime yet, but actually are on the cusp of doing so. So it'll be interesting as we see the kind of new legislation embed in terms of age of criminal responsibility, but also as they look to increase the age range, whether we'll maybe see something like that happen through the EEI process, allowing, you know, that really, really early intervention to take place before a young person over the age of 12 has committed offence. Okay, I think we're on to our last question. It was actually maybe one for Mark or Jamie to kind of chat about, and it was really about the young people from NUC who were involved in it. You know, how did they find the film? How did they find the case studies? Was there any sort of feedback from the young people that were involved? So, Mark, I don't know if you maybe want to go first and say anything with regards to that.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because we had a consultation with Jamie and Sean early on in the process, as we do with all client short films, just to really get a handle on, you know, exactly what it is that we're looking to achieve. And I think it was Sean or Jamie who mentioned to us that specific group. So from my point of view, it was an interesting opportunity because we actually ran some sessions which did not appear on film. So a shout out to a couple of our delivery team members, Libby MacArthur and Ashley, because they basically delivered some sessions, some kind of traditional street cones type sessions for the students. So it was great for the students to get access to. I mean, Libby's been doing community arts for like 30 plus years, and she's an actor, writer, director, very accomplished. So it was great to give, as part of this project, to give those students access to Libby was great. I suppose the idea was, you know, the students who are all acting students with an interest in acting, who live in, I think it's Mary Hill, to give them access to a street cones type session, which I suppose doubled up as a kind of acting masterclass for them, but then to explore ways that we could incorporate them into the short film. Obviously, identities of the young people was something that the EEI team were very conscious of, and did not want to reveal any identities, but they did want to use the testimonies that we had. So working with Sean and Jamie round about those testimonies and, you know, exploring ways that we could incorporate them into the short film. It's a shame that Caitlin, the director of the film, is currently running the tech on this stream, and that's a shame because she would be able to talk about on the ground, so to speak, in terms of working with Libby and the students. From my point of view, I produced the film in my capacity as Street Cones project director. So when it comes to the actual creative side of things, Caitlin very much took the lead with myself and colleagues in the back office supporting her. Jamie, you get anything to add to that?
Yeah, just because I did, Sean mentioned earlier on, I did a wee session with the young people showing them the video and, a wee presentation to thank them to explain a wee bit about the anonymity, you know, for them, because we wouldn't want to stigmatise any young person who was going through EEI, because it's, you know, we're trying to learn and move on. Same with ourselves, you know, they might be known as the EEI people for a long time before faces were shown. But in terms of the young people, and I don't know if that were alluding to what Mark said, because they were talking about the session that they did. So they were looking at the case studies and looking at how the young people have been affected. A lot of the script and a lot of the words that they were using, it was all done through the young people and themselves, and kind of looking at, how can they portray that, or how can they express what that means. So I think they got a lot out of the process. I think they loved doing it, and they loved seeing the outcome as well. So big thanks to Street Cones for that. And I think that's what we're talking about. When they did that session, they really got a lot out of it. So that was that.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much. A big, again, virtual round of applause to our panel for taking part this afternoon. It now leaves me just to say thank you once again to everyone for coming along today to the launch event. The film will be on our website, which is glasgow.gov.uk/EEI, and that will be up by the end of today. We're really hoping that colleagues, partners, will share this video within their own networks. And as I says, Jamie and the team are more than happy to come along and deliver some presentations around EEI to staffing groups, to young people, to whoever may be interested in doing that, because the more wider our networks are, I think Jamie said that the better outcomes for the children, young people that we're working with. So, yep, thank you to everyone for coming along. Hopefully we can do some EI networking face-to-face in the coming months ahead, especially in the 3 sector areas which we started to explore before lockdown within the northwest, the northeast and the south of the city. So please engage with ourselves, get in contact if there's anything we can do. We're more than happy to have a chat. Thanks again for coming, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
I never want my children to live a life like mine, so I faced my inner demons, one small step at a time, one small step at a time. I was a boy without belonging, a jigsaw piece that didn't fit. If someone shouted out the answer, then you know I didn't hear it. You know I didn't hear it. I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. It's taken many years of feeling all alone, so many years of emptiness with no place to call a home, no place to call a home. Now I'm feeling so much stronger as my demons walked away. I think they finally realized they had nothing more to say, nothing more to say. I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. So many days have passed now, and my life is still on track. And if them demons try returning, I'll have the strength to send them back. I'll have the strength to send them back. They'll never pull me down again, or ever cause me pain. I can see a brighter future, and it's hidden in my way. It's growing